our subcommittee meeting for regional appropriations. My name's Mark McConkey, Chairman. Apologize for my cold. And to my left, introduce yourself as other members, if you would, please, Karen.
Yep, I'm Representative Karen Umberger.
And I'm Rep. Steve Schmidt.
Thank you. The reason for today's meeting is to give Carroll County Transit an opportunity to come in and speak to us about their project, what's going on, and what their needs might be financially now and into the future. I participated, as I'm sure Dorothy Solomon and others participated in the opening of the transit last week and had a conversation there and thought that this might make sense. So with that, please, if you'd introduce yourself and your position, and we'll begin.
Okay. I'm Beverly Raymond. I am Director of Transportation for Tri-County Community Action Program. And we were the organization that went forth and did pursue to put in and implement the transportation system, the Carroll County Transit, or as it's being called also, the Blue Loon. Let me just continue on why I'm okay.
Please.
I was looking forward to speaking with you. I've spoken with the commissioners before. We've been asked questions, but I was looking forward to speaking with some of you to be able to express how the need for transportation within the County of Carroll and the different types that we actually have implemented. And it's actually, although we call it Carroll County Transit, it's actually two transportation systems that are in place here. There is a door-to-door transportation system, which is funded through the Bureau of Elderly and Adult Services, along with other local funding. And we have gone to the towns in the past and received funding from them. That was the system that started up about a year ago, this past December. And this is to take people from their point of origin to their destination, and then the return trip back if needed. Funding for that is funded by a trip. We receive $5.74 per trip, and that is for seniors, and that's why for non-seniors we do charge a fare. But we hope that what we try to do is the funding that we receive from other sources, whether it be from funding agencies like TANF, the Transition Assistance for Needy Families, which is another DHHS program, or whether it's through Employment Security, because they are also purchasing transportation from us, or whether it's just through another organization or town welfare or an agency that purchases transportation from us. All of those pots of funds combined is what helps us cover the cost for the door-to-door service. But the other project that we have here is also the fixed route system, well, let's say the flex route system that we just started up last week. The flex route system is funded with funding from the New Hampshire Department of Transportation. There are other resources also that may purchase the passes, whether they be one day or they be for a monthly pass, and those also are put into the pot too. And I am hoping that the Carroll County itself would be able to help us with the funding for the flex route system that we currently are operating. And I think when we came across talking about this project, it sounded like it was one project in general. And I understand that the county does not fund the same projects that the towns fund. The majority of the funding we're receiving from the towns is for the demand response of the door-to-door system. At present, we're raising the local funds for the flex route system, and that is when we wanted to go to the county. That is what we were going to the county for, and I don't know if there's any way that they would be able to help us with this. I do know that I'm getting a lot of responses from people as far as the service that we're providing. I brought one today, a gentleman, and I can forward this to Mark, and he can probably forward it to all of you. I think I may have. A gentleman that used our system recently, a Mr. Lucy, and he was really thankful that we had that in place for him. So I know the need is out there also. And I'm open to questions from.
Okay. Before we do, the on-demand response, which are the buses and the small buses, have been running for quite a while now. Mm-hmm. That you've been looking for funding for that. I know you're getting some money from TANF and Employment Security, Molten Borough Lions, a bunch of other groups, and you had many towns sign on. And I know that there were towns that had signed on years previous, or years previous, and you had not expended that money because, at least my understanding, you had not expended that money. On that part of it, are you now using that money to keep that system going? And then finally, did you say to me that you were wondering if the county could be supportive of the fixed route or of the on-demand route?
Yes, we are expending, to answer your first question, the money from the towns previously, in the previous years, is being expended since we started operating last year, yes.
Okay.
And since we are receiving money from the towns for the door-to-door service route, we like to have money from the county to operate the flex route system.
Okay. I'm getting my terms mixed up. The on-demand, which is running presently, well, actually they're both running, but the fixed route now, which is has support of DOT funding, is that the program that you're looking for county support for?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And that was late starting by no fault of your own. I know we were going to start that service. Way of background, I've been involved with many of these organizations for a number of years trying to get it started. I know that you had a delay. I think we're looking to introduce that service a year ago, and now it's just starting now. How is funding? Are you funded at this point for this year for that?
We're partially funded for that because we were looking towards the county for some funding, and then we're told that we couldn't receive funding for both, so we had to look at either one resource or the other. But primarily the funding that we've received from the towns is what we're using on the demand response. And one of the reasons that we are the money from before that is being used on the demand response is exactly what you said, because we did not start up the fixed route system the same time we started the demand response, which left us with putting in a lot more miles and providing a lot more service than the demand response service was meant to provide. But we didn't want to deny service if we had, were able to do it, so we did do as much service as possible. That's also showing the public how the system actually operates and what it can do for them, for those people that do need that service. And that was so of course it made that system a lot more expensive. The system was made to operate so that when the demand response door-to-door service started up and the flex route started up, the one that just started last week, then we would pick up the people at their point of origin and we would bring them to the fixed route system. And then they would ride the fixed route system to be able to get from point A to point B further. Without that in place, it meant that we were traveling longer distances, and it's been more expensive for us to operate.
The buses that are running the fixed route from Wolfboro through West Ospey to Conway and twice a day connecting West Ospey to Laconia, are those different buses that appear to be the same bus?
They're the same, basically the same, but there's more seating in the flex route systems. Those are 16 passengers. The others are 8 passengers, because we do foresee that there would be more people riding on a flex route system than a demand response system. It's proven that way in the past with all of the services that we provide. We service all of Comeau County, and we service Northern Grafton County. And when we go into a venture like that, it's not unusual for us, and we do get funding from both the towns and the county to be able to operate those services. It's crucial for us.
In your other towns, the other county that you're operating in, on the fixed route, are you being subsidized by the county for that?
Yes, we are.
And to what tune are you being subsidized?
In the Comeau County area, they help us out with both, and we receive $33,000 from them. Over in the Northern Grafton County area, we're receiving $8,000. But we only do a very small portion of Grafton County. We only do Littleton and a few of the surrounding towns.
In Comeau County, where you're receiving $33,000 worth of funding, you said that's for both systems.
Mm-hmm.
Are you soliciting funds from the towns on top of that, or only from the county and Comeau County?
No, from the towns and the county, both.
So what part of that, if you wouldn't mind, what part of that $33,000 Comeau County that you're receiving would you attribute to the fixed route? And is it as extensive as ours?
It's not as extensive as yours, no. We're probably receiving, I'm looking at the 33 taken off the, I'm going to say around $20,000. And it's nowhere near as extensive as yours. I don't know if you're familiar with the Coas County area, but if you are familiar, the fixed route system that we operate in one part of the county is the Burlingame, and that's probably 13 miles round trip from Berlin to Gorham. Let's say 13 to 20 miles it is doing round trip if it does just have to flex off a little. The other route is between the towns of Lancaster, Whitefield, going into northern Grafton, which is Littleton. So the county of Grafton helps us with the Littleton portion that we service with our fixed route. The county of Coas helps us do between the Whitefield, the Lancaster, going into Littleton for that fixed route. And that's probably around 25 miles a route, just a route that we're doing. And we do that, I think it's around 6 times a day.
Thank you. If I could, one of the arguments from the towns that are not quite as supportive, and one of the conversations of the towns and the county are that we're not running throughout the majority.
Mm-hmm.
But it would appear to me that in your Coas County that it's even less percentage-wise of county-wide. You may be hitting the higher populations, but less of the county or somewhat equal. Do you have any idea?
We are probably, currently in Coas County, we're probably hitting more of the towns than we are in Carroll. And the reason being is that we've been up there for 35 years as far as doing the door-to-door service, and we've been up there for about 15 years doing the fixed route service. So we've actually built up a system where we have volunteer drivers, which is the goal for the Carroll County transit system that we're doing also. We have volunteer drivers, we have the door-to-door service, and then we have the flex route system. In order for us to be able to hit a lot of those other towns that are further out, we use volunteer drivers to be able to do that whenever possible. 1, it's more cost efficient for us. And 2, they can get into those areas much easier than trying to drive our bigger vehicles into some of those areas. We do, though, because we're wheelchair accessible, we do bring the wheelchair accessible vehicles in for those people that are unable, they're not ambulatory to be able to ride in a regular vehicle. So, in essence, it takes a while for a system to grow, and it takes a while for people to understand how a demand response or a flex route system works. It takes them a while to be educated on it, and it takes them a long time to trust. So somebody who's riding it currently may have a neighbor who's still unsure but might try it when they unfortunately end up where they're not able to drive. And then they're going to try the system, and then they become riders of it. We've got a lady down in, I believe it was the Wolfboro area, who sent us a thank you card because she always drove herself. She owned her own vehicle. There was an accident, I guess, that she was in, and she wasn't able to drive at that point in time, and her vehicle was totaled. So she wrote on our system. My understanding was somebody after that gave her a car, and she said, I really don't want to bother anymore. It's too expensive to try and operate my car on my own. Financially, she couldn't afford it, and found our services were fine as far as her to ride on. And she was, I'm going to say she was in her early 90s.
If I could, and then I'll open it up to committee, and for the record, Representative McCarthy is joining us. What's your picture look like for the remainder of this year? And if that is solid enough to get you through this year, are you really looking for an appropriation or a small appropriation this year with a larger? Problem being, we've already started into this process and we haven't heard anything up to this point. And I didn't know if your thought was to educate us, and now that you have all these major issues behind you, working for a relationship going forward. So if you could help me out with that.
Okay, and that's exactly why I'm sitting here today with you, is to make you aware of the differences between the systems, that you're not funding the same system that the towns would be funding. The county wouldn't be, because I do understand that that's one of the stipulations with your county. Going forward, we've got a budget that we're looking at for 32 weeks, yes, because we were funded for a full year.